expressed solidarity and full support for Iran's inherent and legitimate right of self-defense in conformity with the Charter of the United Nations, denounced the unlawful Israeli unilateral strikes on IAEA-safeguarded Iranian nuclear facilities, called for bringing an end to this aggression, advocated cessation of hostilities and for reverting to dialogue and diplomacy for a peaceful, lasting settlement of the Iranian nuclear issue. In recent days, Pakistan's leadership, including the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, has remained actively engaged in promoting those objectives through numerous and continuing contacts with leaders of other countries and our partners across regions, all in the interest of preserving international peace and security and in fulfillment of our responsibility as a member of the Security Council. The Council of Foreign Ministers of the OIC meeting in Istanbul has echoed the same call for ending the aggression and supporting de-escalation and a peaceful settlement. It is in this context that we are seriously concerned by the recent developments that have further heightened tensions. Pakistan has condemned the US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, which come on the heels of a series of brazen attacks by Israel on the nuclear sites. Let me recall that specific targeting of nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguards constitutes a clear breach of international law, the IAEA statute, multiple IAEA resolutions, as well as Security Council Resolution 487. And according to Article 25 of the Charter, the members of the United Nations agree to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council in accordance with the Charter. That responsibility to carry out the decisions of the Security Council is heaviest with the members of this Council, particularly the permanent members in the first place. Madam President, we are deeply alarmed by the escalating situation. The sharp rise in tensions and violence as a result of the Israeli aggression and unlawful actions is profoundly disturbing. Any further escalation risks catastrophic consequences for the region and beyond. Pakistan stands in solidarity with the government and brotherly people of Iran during this challenging time. Madam President, these attacks set a dangerous precedent and pose a grave threat to the safety and security of populations across the region, and indeed the world. As the body entrusted with primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, the Security Council must act urgently and decisively. We share a collective responsibility to, first, unequivocally reject and condemn the attacks against the Islamic Republic of Iran since 13th of June, being in clear contravention of international law and the UN Charter. Threat or use of force must never be condoned. Article 2.4 is crystal clear in this regard, and so is Article 51. Second, denounce the attacks on IAEA safeguarded nuclear facilities, which violate Security Council and IAEA resolutions as well as international humanitarian law. Third, reaffirm the obligation to protect civilian lives and property on both sides. All parties must adhere fully to international law, particularly international humanitarian law. Fourth, call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and a complete ceasefire. Fifth, promote urgent recourse to dialogue and diplomacy consistent with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter to find a peaceful and lasting resolution to the Iranian nuclear issue. Madam President, in pursuit of these objectives, Pakistan has joined China and Russia in circulating a draft resolution. Among other things, This resolution calls for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, urges all parties to refrain from further escalation, demands the urgent protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure, and supports a diplomatic path forward on the Iranian nuclear issue that is acceptable to all parties. And listening to similar concerns and priorities expressed by many of the Council members today, we sincerely hope that the draft resolution will receive the Council's support, enabling it to respond with unity and resolve urgently and effectively in line with the gravity of the situation. And Pakistan stands ready to engage constructively with all Council members in this regard. Madam President, the Middle East, already burdened by prolonged instability, history of Israeli illegal occupation, and continued denial of the Palestinian right to self-determination and statehood, cannot absorb another crisis. We must act now to prevent the situation from spiraling further out of control. History has taught us that the use of force and unilateral military actions only deepen conflicts and entrench divisions, with tragic human and humanitarian consequences. Dialogue and diplomacy remain the only path forward. These must be pursued with seriousness and sincerity by all. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Madam President, I would like to thank you for the prompt scheduling of this meeting. I thank the Secretary General for his remark. We share your assessment that this is a dangerous escalation in the region already on the edge. And we echo your pressing call on member states to de-escalate and to uphold their obligation under the UN Charter and other rules of international law. I also thank ASG Jenka and Director General Grossi for their briefings. Madam President, the world, and especially the Middle East, cannot endure another war. Unfortunately, events in the region are accelerating in an alarming pace, pushing the Middle East dangerously close to an apocalyptic scenario. At a time when the international community was united, yes, was united in seeking ways to ease tensions, the situation has deteriorated sharply yesterday and further exacerbated by American strikes targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. Algeria expresses its deep concern and regret over this grave development, which significantly worsens the security and exposes the entire region to unprecedented risks with potentially uncontainable consequences. The erosion of the international nuclear security architecture poses a grave threat not only to regional stability, but also to the global peace and security. Attacks on nuclear facilities under international safeguards seriously undermine the integrity and credibility of the global non-proliferation regime. Therefore, we reaffirm that the legal framework safeguarding